Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us and welcome to the Work from Anywhere series with Ingram Micro in conjunction with LogMeIn. I'm Joseph Walsh. I'm the product marketing lead for LogMeIn in EMEA, and I'm joined today by James Greenway, who's one of our territory channel managers in the UK, and Caroline Gissing, who is our LogMeIn lead at Ingram Micro. So welcome, Caroline. Welcome, James. Thanks for joining the show today.
Thank you, Joe.
What we're going to cover for everybody today is we want to talk about cloud telephony, right? And to do that as a bit of a segue, we want to talk a little bit about video conferencing, okay? Because when you look at a lot of the cloud telephony providers in the market today, it's hard to get away from the video conferencing elements as well. We're seeing telephony expand from just that telephone system into more of a communications platform. And there's a few reasons for this. It's because, particularly in 2020, with the result of COVID, we've seen the use of video conferencing absolutely explode, okay? It's gone, the market has doubled or trebled, okay? Every organization is using it, and we see increasingly more vendors adding video capability to their solutions, okay? Like LogMeIn have with our telephony platform, we've added the video capability to that and created GoToConnect. But before we get into that in a bit more detail, let's start with you, Caroline. What are you seeing with your customers? How many of those over the course of 2020 have embraced video conferencing and are now looking for this as a key element to their overall comms platform?
Thank you, Joe. I think most importantly is obviously to discuss where, last year these businesses were looking at video conferencing. They were looking at expanding their UCC portfolio over a move to cloud, migration to cloud over 5 years. They've all had to do it within a couple of months, from March and sort of expanded that over like the last sort of 6-7 months where COVID's really taken hold and people have had to implement these really quickly. One of the key things we found, obviously, Ingram being more like an IT partner, with a lot of our partners are, they're IT resellers, they're ITSP, they're that kind of business where they probably haven't touched telephony before or video conferencing at all. So they've had to learn quite quickly and use expertise like people like LogMeIn to come in and help educate them quickly on how they can integrate that with the other services they're offering.
Yeah, it's been a big learning curve for everybody this year. And I think to some extent as well, there's been maybe an element of panic buying where, people weren't given much notice. They were thrust into remote working overnight. They've had to get the right tools. James, did you see that with some of your customers? Have you seen them just literally they took whatever they could get and they might start a bit of a cleanup exercise?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the points I was going to kind of bring on to. So I appreciate you mentioning that because it's definitely something we're starting to see now. Obviously, back in February, March, there was when we went into lockdown here in the UK, there was a massive boom, and you're quite right. The acceleration into remote working and the use of video conferencing was accelerated and forced upon a lot of companies who had it, keep pushing it down the line. There was a quick snap decision to make sure that everyone could work quickly and actually keep the lights on and keep going as they could as best as they can. And now we are really starting to see customers come back to us who may have gone X different routes to say oh, that actually wasn't quite right for us. Because it isn't just something that you can just make a decision on really, really quickly. There are lots of different impacts to the solutions that you buy in unified comms that have varying different results depending on the way your workforce works, how they interact with their partners, their customers, or their clients. So yeah, we're definitely starting to see, as you mentioned, a bit of a cleanup happen now. Exercise where it's a bit more of a thorough decision-making process, a bit more of a project rather than a oh God, we need something now to keep going. So yeah, it's an interesting time.
And it is, you're right, James, it is a project, right? Because let's go back to February, March, right? Where people were literally just had the office doors shut overnight. They most likely had a telephone system already in place. Most businesses have a telephone system already in place, right? What they needed to add was maybe some messaging capability. They needed to add some video conferencing. And they may have procured that from different providers or different vendors, right? And they did that because they needed something right there and then in that moment to let them get through it. But then as we move on and as we start to become kind of, used to this way of working and we see a kind of a lasting impact from it, and also a ray of light with, hopes of a vaccine now, if you look at the news reports over the last couple of weeks. But these comms platforms, in terms of business continuity, in terms of, keeping people talking, communicating, and collaborating, were always important, but never so much important as they have been over the last 6 months. And now as IT managers look at this, they realize, well, look, now that I've got telephony, now that I've got video conferencing, now that I've got messaging, how can I start, how can I clean it up a little bit? It's 3 different vendors, it's 3 different contracts. is it possible to get this from one? And it is, because most vendors are providing all this through one solutions, one platform, right? And now it is not just because of COVID, but always a good time to look at your systems and look at how can your technology help you grow as a business, right? And that's kind of a few of the things we wanted to continue this discussion with you guys is how businesses can grow through these platforms. And when we talk about, looking at telephony and looking at video conferencing and looking at messaging, because of what's happened, because of the growth, it's always a good time just to rethink your technology. How old is your phone system? Is it time to revisit it, to look at it? I always use my smartphone as an example, right? If my smartphone's 5 years old, okay, if I go to get a new smartphone today, you can be guaranteed today's devices are going to do a hell of a lot more than my old device, right? And that's exactly the same for business phone systems and business comm platforms. It's always good to go back to the market and go, well, what's changed? What's new functions and features, and what more capability we can get? When it comes to your customers, how regularly do you see them refresh things like their telephone system, and how regularly would you recommend that they do it? Maybe we start with you with this one, James.
Yeah, so I suppose it's obviously changed over the past few years. I mean, typically when I first started out in the UC kind of market and side of things, about 7-8 years ago, despite my young looking appearance, typically it was around, every sort of, for an on-premise solution, it was sort of every 7-8 years was typically the kind of the refresh cycle. And if you go a bit further than that, you had some of the 20+ year Alcatel and BT and Nortel systems that were just sat there and just continued ticking along. As we kind of transitioned into that more kind of as a service and hosted and cloud environment, it is a bit more of a shorter refresh rate, but that I suppose that comes down to several different factors. And I think one of the things that we at LogMeIn certainly have in our benefit is customer satisfaction is quite key for us, and which means that the average life cycle of our LogMeIn customers is quite high. I think it's typically around 8 or 9 years across all of our portfolios, and I think that just comes from our continued investment into our products, into our services, to try and really make sure that we are providing a software and a service that is relevant to the customer's needs and evolving needs, continually changing, right?
And the reason that life cycle is so long, Caroline, sorry, I was going to come in, is just it's cloud-based, right? So our customers are always on the latest, greatest, versions of our software, because
you took the words right out of my mouth, Joe.
Yeah, sorry, Caroline, I stole your thunder. I apologize.
No, not at all.
Caroline, what are you guys experiencing in terms of your customers and how regularly they refresh?
It depends again, sort of obviously the same as James was saying, that the historic kind of legacy systems where they're on premise, the kit wears out after time. People obviously now moving to the cloud and having that sort of evergreen solution. Again, COVID has obviously increased and sped up that process quite quickly. With obviously a UCaaS opportunity, and having that embedded in a business means that you haven't just got to continue to think about, right, okay, have I got the latest software for my messaging? Have I got the latest software for my chat? Have I got the, everything that's embedded in that UCaaS sorry, my cat's getting involved here, in my UCaaS offering. It covers all of them, and you can upgrade what you want when you want as well. You can do it obviously at times that, depending on how you manage it, times that suit your business, suit your end user's business as well. So you don't have to worry about having the legacy equipment where it's going to have to be right. You're going to have to pay £8,000, £20,000. We have to reinvest in your whole estate. It's a capital expenditure. Nice OPEX opportunity of UCaaS as well.
Yeah, so I think for any IT buyers out there, it's always a really good idea to think refresh, right? To look at how has the technology evolved since you last procured it, particularly on the phone system side, but also the market's more competitive, right? So there's always greater value to get when you go into a more competitive market and people are fighting more aggressively for your business. So huge opportunities for people there if they literally just go and think refresh around their phone system.
I actually had quite an interesting conversation with a colleague the other day. Whose a friend of a friend, somebody I know, work at a car company auction house, and one of them had to go in every day to reset their hunt groups because they had an in-house legacy phone. So obviously now they're looking at a LogMeIn opportunity for UCaaS where someone can just sit home and do that. IT were having to go in and change that. You have to put a code into your phone every day. This is all plug and play. It's it's life-changing for remote working.
it's a dream for telecoms managers. It just makes life so much easier.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we like, even if you look at the extra capabilities, right? And one thing that has emerged over the last 5-10 years in business is obviously data, right? Data's played a much bigger role today than than it has done. And with phone systems and communication platforms, it's no different either, right? And there's a huge amount of learnings people can get from assessing the data, on their phone system. So even simple things like, how many times does someone ring your office, when it's shut, when it's out of office hours? How are you dealing with that? Do you have auto attendants to answer calls, take messages, stuff like that? What's the caller experience when you do have people in the office? How long are they generally waiting on the phone to be answered? How long is that journey for them to get the response to their query? If you're doing specific marketing campaigns, you want to use a specific number to assess the performance of the marketing campaign. There's loads of different ways you can use data from a phone system to grow and learn your business, and improve your business. For you, Caroline and Ingram, when you see businesses make the leap from on-premise to cloud and they have access to all this kind of stuff, what's normally the data that they jump to most, if they think, wow, this is really powerful, I didn't have this before?
One, obviously the recording, and obviously when you're making a call, doing something like this, a GoToMeeting with GoToConnect, you can go back through notes. You don't have to worry about time concerns over that. You don't have to worry about forgetting things, not focusing completely on the call. Marketing, find it really useful. Again, where marketing is sort of having to remotely work and have to integrate their systems with things. A lot of Teams users, we have obviously Ingram are a massive Microsoft house. So one of the key things that we're finding is the integration with Teams, where Teams is a great messaging platform. Calls, how do you do it? It becomes very complex with direct routing, everything. Bundle on a GoToConnect integration and everything's simple, one-click dials. You're not having to worry about time being wasted, loading up extra modules. It's just click and dial, really simple. Same with Outlook as well.
Yeah.
There's a time saving, so IT managers love it, managers
Yeah.
love it, marketing love it, I love it.
James,
love it.
what about you? What have you been seeing with the customers?
Yeah, I think so. One of the points on the screen on slide a minute in terms of call experience, and I think it's always been important for, again, I don't want to touch on customer satisfaction again, but it's keeping that customer happy. I mean, I know at the beginning of the pandemic, I was calling frantically various airlines to understand whether I could still fly places, and if my money was gone, or things like that. And then I was quite frantic, but there's certain things that really help to de-escalate, and are very simple things, like the customer service agent or whoever I'm speaking to, just answering the call with, oh, hi, Mr. Greenaway, sorry for your wait if it's been X amount of time, things like that, which all comes down to the data that agent has presented to them and in front of them. If they didn't have that and it was just answering the call, you have to go through that process again. What's your account and things like that. But to have that, that data available to an agent, a customer service representative, things like that, really makes a difference. Again, it really de-escalated me when I'm ringing furiously, thinking I've lost my money to go to Barbados, which I was supposed to go back in May. But yeah, it's just simple things like that that really do make that customer experience a lot more friendly, and it's a very easy thing to do. Right? It's only made available through technology of various UC applications. So.
Exactly, and that's, again, it's those kind of new capabilities, new features that you get in phone systems and communication solutions of today that you didn't get in the past. It just makes life so much easier. Like, I like that. We talk about, there's a lot of businesses on the smaller side that don't have simple things like auto attendance, or they can't automate the process. Like Caroline, you talked about it. They need to go in every day to update the reset the ring groups or the hunt groups in the business, right? They've been able to automate these things so that at a certain time, if the office isn't open, so you can set every day at 5 o'clock it automatically goes to the out of office response. It automatically provides voicemail capabilities for people to leave messages so they can get followed up on. It changes the flow of the calls based on certain periods. If you're down on staff, or if there's a certain part of your business closed due to the pandemic, you can have a note. You can have that managed. So automation, and we see this in all walks of life, and now we see it in the phone system, just making life so much easier for telecoms managers, small business owners, IT managers, or the IT buyer, or the person who just happens to know about phone systems that is managing the phone system for the business. They kind of reluctantly fell into that role. Automation makes life a little bit easier. How have you seen the market adapt the automation into their kind of day-to-day business operations? What have you seen, James, with your customers?
Yeah, so a kind of a good example that I've found recently was with a legal practice and solicitors, and the use of recording in various different ways from an audio and video perspective, and predominantly the video side of things, where there's certain regulations that have now changed which allow certain documents to be signed over video conferencing as a in a legally binding manner. And one of the things that's very important to solicitors on that is obviously the recording element of it, and cloud storage of recording, and be able to search and make sure they can find that document signing video and make it easily accessible. But the other side of it is the kind of the transcription services that come with it. They can easily search through recordings to say, is this the right one? They can, at the beginning of the recording, they can say, I'm James Greenaway and I'm signing this document. So that could be easily searched for in the transcription. That really does save a lot of time. And there's some really interesting ways in which this kind of automated process has kind of come to light. That was just one of the ones I came across a couple of weeks ago, which I thought was brilliant. I think that the legislation is just around wills at the moment, and the signing of wills, but I think it's going to open up a lot of doors just to cater for situations like that at the moment.
It can make life so much easier. Caroline, what about you guys?
One of the key things that kind of got me interested in working with LogMeIn and Ingram in the first place was the simplicity of the system. Again, Ingram being that sort of powerhouse in IT and sort of that historic hardware box shifting kind of environment, meant that having something that was so simple for an end user and a reseller to use is really key. So the core routing you can do, for example, is something that, I can turn on a laptop, I can turn off a laptop, I can do bits and pieces, but myself, if I wanted to change my core routing and have my voicemails go somewhere else, have my own mini hunt group set up, I can manage to a degree on the really easy, simple to use screen. So again, it's kind of that issue where telephony and unified comms has kind of scared a lot of people away. Again, like you said, in these smaller businesses where the financial director might also be in charge of the phone system, can really simply and easily do this thing in a garden shed, in the back garden, and not have to worry about having to walk into their office and do it all. It's I think people make the misconception that because you say something simple, it means that it's very low end market, and that's absolutely not the case with this product. It's simple from an enterprise level, because it's got so many features, so many things that's so simple to use that it can be used for 5 people, it can be used for 1,000 people. It's completely scalable and doesn't change depending on the size of the users.
Yeah, and I think one big thing that cloud does in general for people and new technologies with their extra features and features, it takes away a lot of unnecessary distractions, right? And I think now, particularly where people find themselves, we're amidst a global pandemic. Businesses have so much to deal with and to confront now. They don't need to be messing around for hours with their phone system to get it to do what they want it to do. Like, the fact that things like our dial plan editor has just automated all that simple drag and drop. It just, it frees up so much time. It makes it pretty easy for anybody to go in and make some changes. And it just means that business can spend their time really focusing on things that are going to make an impact on their revenue and their bottom line. Okay, so I think one of the last things that you wanted to touch on, again, and we've touched on this a little bit, Caroline, you talked about it from a Microsoft Teams perspective, is the integration with other platforms, right? The ability to take, Teams as an internal collaboration tool, integrate with GoToConnect, give you all that external comms from putting your best foot forward with customers, with prospects, with partners, with suppliers, bringing together 2 platforms to create a complete comm solution, all cloud-based, both one backing up the other. Those integrations play a big part. There's also integration with CRM systems, integration with billing systems, integration with other kind of, industry-specific things like billing management with Clio in the legal world. What kind of integrations, Caroline, do you see customers, that this is a must-have? This is something that I never had with my old telephone system. It's a must-have with this one. What do you see really kind of standing out for them?
Again, Ingram being that massive, I think we're the biggest direct partner of Microsoft. So obviously a lot of our partners are Microsoft houses, and that's kind of where their bread and butter is. So the conversations that we're having with GoToConnect and Teams is that, again, Teams was something that everyone kind of had in their licenses previously, but never used. And with COVID, now IT companies are obviously and IT infrastructure is all lending towards Teams. But again, that voice part's been really missing. And, you know, it's multiple clicks, it's multiple products to get everything working the right way. How do I get Teams to make a call? Right, I could buy a you know, direct routing, and then do I have to have something sat on in situ somewhere in a server room? Probably. To worry about SIP trunks, all that kind of stuff. GoToConnect, it's a monthly cost, one-off license. Bosh, goes in. You've got your calling from you've got your little bot that sits there. You go only 3 ellipses. You know, log in to GoToConnect. GoToMeeting as well. You can really quickly just write in, like for example, Joe Walsh gives me access to this room straight away. It's time saving, but you know, Teams and IT has been very much a hardware box shifting environment. They're scared of talking about voice. It's something that's always been deemed too technical. This is all cloud based. There's nothing to really manage because it's so simple. That's kind of what we've sort of been pushing from that efficiency perspective. I know a lot of other vendors will talk about it's only a couple of clicks and before you get to actually get into a meeting, and I know some vendors have said it's, you know, with 0 click and there's security and whatnot, without going into too much detail. You know, this you can get it on Chrome without having to download anything. Obviously you have your GoToConnect application, and then it is literally just 1 click, super secure encryption. You know, so there's that less of a worry from an IT perspective of who's going to be encroaching on my meetings, for example.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Caroline. A few, James, those integrations, what you see as being kind of like, you know, the top 1, the top 2 must have integrations for Telephony's platform.
Yeah, so well, I think I think Caroline's hit the nail on the head. You can't have a conversation around UC or UCAS at the moment without some sort of Teams discussion. So I think that is definitely the key one. That it's a conversation I'm having, 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10. So yeah, for us to be able to, the ability to continue that conversation, we'll have to walk away from it and actually add value to the already very good Microsoft proposition. We can really add value with our our core voice network and our global voice backbone and the inherent DNA of our go-to infrastructure. We really can add value to that story, which is great, because otherwise, a lot of people might have to just walk away from that discussion. And it's something that we don't. We can add value to it, which is great.
You don't have to worry about all these expensive call plans as well. You've got business voice. Suddenly you're paying one-off cost for something, then all of a sudden it's bolt on, bolt on, bolt on. This is it 2,500 minutes you get? It's
yep.
No, he's going to use those anyway, but then they get pulled as well. So it's great for an environment, whether you're making calls or not, to have that all there nicely for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to international countries as well. Sorry, just cut you off. But yeah,
no, keep going, James, keep going.
Yeah, it's important to know that as well. Yeah, we try and keep everything simple here at LogMeIn and with the GoToConnect product. So yeah, Caroline's absolutely right about the dial plan side of things, which is also always typically an afterthought when you go through things. But yeah, everything's included with us. 2,500 minutes per month to 52 different countries. Again, that global reach that we have as a vendor. We've got that ability to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I think that's an important one as well, that people realize we've got to connect it. It's a full service solution, okay? And when you do integrate it with something like Microsoft Teams, like it's literally all you need from a comms perspective. You don't need relationships with anybody else. It's just like a 2-vendor approach, very simple, very easy to manage, all cloud-based. There's no remote work, maintenance, upgrading or anything that a customer needs to do. That's all taken care of, and it really it transforms that back-end operation as well, because of all the extra capability that we bring to it. So, I think there's huge pluses for anybody that hasn't changed their phone system in the last 3, 4, 5 years or even longer. Go have a look at it, see what you can get for your money today versus what you did when you initially procured that product. And on that note, I'm going to say a big thank you to James from my own crew at LogMeIn for coming and helping us with this conversation today. To Caroline from Ingram. Caroline, thanks a million for your contributions. It's been really valuable. Should anybody have any questions about GoToConnect, should they like to learn more or learn a bit more about the LogMeIn products, do reach out to Caroline, reach out to James. They're more than happy to field any questions or any queries that you have, and would love to get a demonstration or a proof of concept up and running. But I must say, James has a fantastic doorbell. It's quite impressive.
That with LogMeIn.
It announces it announces someone's at the door. And actually, but what you can do, an interesting one, what you can do with it with GoToConnect is you can link it to your door of the business. So if James does have a monitor, he knows it's at the door, he can actually use GoToConnect and their integrations to open that door and let people in. So on that note, thank you to everybody. We've really enjoyed the last 20, 25 minutes or so. We hope you did too, and we'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.